everybody, my name is Mars. You can call me MG if you would like. And today I have for you the start of a new vlog. I guess for you I have the whole vlog, but for me it's just the start of it. And I am going to be binging a book series. I feel like I really front-loaded the year with binging book series vlogs, but I haven't done one in a couple of months now, and I figured let's just get one done. I love binging series. And one series that I've had on my shelf for almost a year now that's just been begging me to read it is the Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger. Carriger? I still don't know how to pronounce her last name. I've seen it both ways, or I guess I've heard it both ways. I don't know what's correct, but this is book one, which is Soulless, and this is a magical historical book, which has just been like my jam lately. I've loved all of the historical fantasy. I've got Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, A Marvelous Light, just so many that I've read recently and adored. So I'm like, now is the time. I'm so into this genre right now. I have to read this series. So I own all 5 books. I'm going to read the back of this first one for you though, because if I try to summarize it myself, it's not going to make sense. But this is the gist of the series. Alexia Terabati is laboring under a great many social tribulations. First, she has no soul. Second, she's a spinster whose father is both Italian and dead. Third, she was rudely attacked by a vampire, breaking all standards of social etiquette. Where to go from there? From bad to worse, apparently, for Alexia accidentally kills the vampire, and then the appalling Lord Macon? It's Maccon. Not sure that's pronounced, but, loud, messy, gorgeous, and a werewolf, is sent by Queen Victoria to investigate. With unexpected vampires appearing and expected vampires disappearing, everyone seems to believe Alexia is responsible. Can she figure out what is actually happening to London's high society? Will her soulless ability to negate supernatural powers prove useful or just plain embarrassing? Finally, who is the real enemy? And do they have treacle tart? That sounds so fun. I know Jess from the Hex Library really liked the series, and it's because of her that I bought this book, and like the whole series, because she was talking about it about this time last year. And then in September, I remember it was September because it was around my birthday, I found books 2 through 5 in a, what's the word? Secondhand shop. And then I ordered book 1 off of Thrift Books just so I could have the whole set, and I spent less than $10 on all of them. So it's just been sitting there for almost a year on my shelf, and it's finally the time to read this. I'm so excited. I'm going to break into this. Ooh, this font is huge. So it's also only like 360 something pages, and all of the books are about the same size. So like they're decent, but they're not like super long. So yeah, I can't wait. I'm gonna get in on this, and I will come back to you when I have an update. Hello friends. My cats are currently very mad at me for not feeding them, but they still have half an hour until their normal dinner time. And I have to update you on Soulless, so they're gonna have to wait a little bit more. Oh my goodness, so I was planning on updating you. Okay, Chloe, you don't need to pull on the hamper. That's fine though. I was planning on updating you after this chapter anyway, because I'm just over 100 pages in, and I figured it would be a good time to, give you the lay of the land and talk about how I'm feeling about this. So, if you can tell, I'm like very frazzled because of what happened at the end of this chapter, but we'll get there. So basically, in this world, there are normal humans, but there are also vampires, werewolves, ghosts, and preternaturals is what the soulless people are called. Basically, people can become these supernatural creatures if they have an excess of soul, which you don't know about someone until they are like being turned into a creature, or unless they die. So like a vampire or a werewolf trying to turn someone, the turning will only be successful if the person has an excess of soul, and I'm assuming that ghosts happen when someone with an excess of soul dies as a mortal. We haven't met any ghosts yet. I'm very curious as to the whole deal with the ghosts, but soulless people, like our main character Alexia, have the power to kind of revert supernaturals. Again, I really want to know what that means in terms of ghosts, but in terms of vampires and werewolves, if she's touching them, then they kind of revert back to how they were as mortals, and they can be killed as mortals can if they're being touched. And like back before there was this whole society for supernatural people being involved in regular everyday life. It was the soulless people who hunted vampires and werewolves. So I think all of that is fascinating. It's a really cool setup for a supernatural society, so I love that already. Basically, Chapter 1, Alexia is at this party, and she secludes herself in the library to get a snack and just chill out, because she's not really one for parties. And she is attacked by a vampire, like we're told in the back of the book. She kills this vampire in self-defense, and Lord Macan, as I've learned it is pronounced from the author's pronunciation guide on her website, hello gremlin, you're gonna stare at me until I feed you, aren't you? He is the head of the BUR, I forget what that stands for, but it's like the agency involved in supernatural affairs in London. He's also the alpha of the local werewolf pack. He has only been in this position for about 20 years, but he's very respected. He is investigating this death of this vampire. Okay, Gremlin just sprinted out of here for some reason. My cats are crazy. It's distracting, I'm sorry. So he's like, what the heck is going on? And Alexia is like, boy, would I like to know. The two of them have met before, and it's referred to as the Hedgehog Incident, which I'm pretty sure is a short story that Gail Carriger has written. So, like, we could read their first meeting, but obviously I haven't done that yet. I will eventually, I think, but for now we just have them now, and it's very clear that the two are attracted to each other, and it's so fun. I love it so much. They are both doing, like, investigating together, but also separately, and we learn that, so the werewolves have packs, but then there's also lone wolves. Vampires, their, like, family unit is called a hive, and then vampires that go off on their own are called roves, and we do meet a rove vampire. His name is Lord Akeldama, and he is very flamboyantly gay. I love him. He's a bit of a stereotype, but I'll forgive it. And he's friends with Alexia. And so we learn that rove vampires and lone werewolves in London and the surrounding areas are going missing, but also, aside from the guy that attacked Alexia, 2 other unknown rove vampires have shown up in London and died shortly thereafter of starvation, and they have, according to Lord Macan, his first name is Connell, which Connell Macan is kind of a hilarious name, but they have the scent of the local vampire hive on them, but the head of that hive is like, I didn't turn these vampires, and only vampire queens can turn vampires. So there's all this mystery going on. Alexia has just had a meeting with this vampire hive queen, and then on her way out she's kidnapped by a man with a shadowy face, and the person driving the carriage, she like accidentally gets into his carriage because she thinks it's hers, but then the person driving the carriage has a like waxy ashen face is how it's described, and like looks human but not quite. So love the uncanny valley there. Wow, I just realized how long I've been filming. These first 100 pages sure have a lot going on. Anyway, we find out that Lord Macan has been following Alexia to make sure she's okay, meeting with this vampire queen because he doesn't trust her, doesn't trust the queen. And so he obviously sees her get into this carriage that then drives away, and she like falls out of the carriage onto him, and while he's making sure she's fine, the carriage drives off, and they're like talking and stuff, and she is like, I don't want all your people like watching me all the time just because you think this guy's gonna try and kidnap me again. Like, if it's you or like your second in command, like that's fine or whatever, but like I don't know these other people, I don't want them watching me. What if my friend the vampire Lord Akeldama watches me during the full moon, since you're gonna be indisposed with werewolf stuff? And Lord Macan gets very jealous. The Earl looked daggers. Is there a clown car going past? What the heck was that? Anyway, he's very clearly jealous, and Alexia is like kind of egging him on, and then he interrupts her and it says, Lord Macan let go of her arm, stopped, turned, and to her complete surprise, kissed her full on the lips. I knew it was going to be a romance between the two of them, but I didn't expect it so early on. Like I said, I was going to update you at the end of this chapter anyways, because it would be past the 100-page mark. But then that happened, and I was like, floored. I'm so excited to read the next chapter, but I'm not going to do it just yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to feed my cats a little bit early because they are being annoying. And I'm tired of them just sitting there looking at me. So I'm going to go feed them. I'm going to get myself some ice cream. I have cookie dough ice cream waiting for me in the freezer, so I'm going to get myself a mug of that. Probably watch a little bit of YouTube while I eat. And then I'm going to most likely spend the rest of my evening reading this because I cannot think of a better way to spend my time. So we are off to a great start with Soulless. I'm enjoying this so much. And now you have listened to me ramble for far too long on just the first 100 pages of this book. So I'm going to go and come back later on when I have another update. Okay, I'm sorry for my AC being on, but I genuinely can't get up to turn it off right now. I've been reading. I'm now 172 pages in, and Alexia and Connell are having relations. Not anything full out, but like getting there. And she bites him and says, thinks he tasted wonderful, of salt and meat, like gravy. I'm literally about to cry from laughing at that. Why is that so funny to me? I'm obsessed with this book, guys. It is so good. I'm gonna keep reading. I'll see you later. Friends, because it is barely still morning. It's like 11:30 on Sunday, and as you saw, I just finished Soulless. This was so good. This was literally everything I wanted out of this book. It was fantastic. The characters, I love every single one of them. I love that Alexia actually has friends, only a couple of them, but she has friends. You know, she's got Lord Akeldama the vampire, her friend Ivy, who doesn't know about her soullessness, but does know about her involvement in supernatural affairs. She's made a couple of new friends throughout the book, like Professor Lyle, who is the second in command to Lord Macan. They got married at the end of the book. I probably should put a warning at the beginning of this vlog that I will be spoiling it, but it's fine. If you didn't know by now, I'm going to be spoiling some of it. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I will be talking about the plot and stuff. So the epilogue was their wedding and consummation of that marriage. It's so good, guys. I am obsessed, and I'm very excited to start book 2, which is Changeless. At the back there's a guide to all of her books. There's apparently a manga version of Soulless, which I'd be very interested in checking out. That sounds really fun. Yeah, book 2 is Changeless, and I'm excited to see what happens. Oh, I didn't even bring up the fact that Queen Victoria showed up at Alexia's house. There was this whole thing with kidnappings and scientific experiments, and we learn why on the spine here. I don't know if you can see that. series number is inside an octopus. That's like the symbol of these people who are trying to figure out what makes certain people different enough to become supernatural. So like in this world it's just understood to be like the amount of soul a person has, but these scientists are trying to like quantify and figure out what exactly that means. So there's all that going on. There's some shenanigans with the naked werewolf. It's so good. I'm very excited to see where things go in book 2, so I will probably start that later on today. I'm thinking when I do my sprints tonight, so I will take the next 6.5 hours to do all of the other things on my to-do list, because I do have kind of an extensive to-do list today, but tonight I will be picking up book 2, and I cannot wait. I will see you guys then for all of the excitement. Hello friends, I apologize for the abysmal lighting, but it is 9 p.m. I just finished streaming, and during most of the sprints for the stream I was reading, so I figured I'd give you an update as to where I'm at. So I'm currently 164 pages into Changeless, and I'm actually in the middle of a chapter, but it's like at the end of a scene. Like there's a little, you can't see this, there's a little scene break, so I figured it's fine, I can update you now. Basically, the problem in this book, it's been a few months since the end of book 1, so there's a little bit of a time skip. But Alexia and Connell have been married for several months, and they're having a great time being married. Alexia works for the Queen. I think, I completely did not mention that. I know I mentioned the Queen, and then I started explaining something else when I was giving you my final update on Soulless, so my bad. The reason the Queen shows up is to give Alexia this job in her shadow cabinet. So her shadow cabinet for the longest time has only had one werewolf and one vampire in it, and the position for the preternatural has been open for a while because they're extremely rare. So she's like, hey, I want you to have this job, and now that you're marrying this guy, you can actually have the job because this is Victorian London and social status is everything. So she couldn't have the job before because A, she was upper class but not like a noble, and B, she was an unmarried woman, and that just simply wasn't done. So she got a husband and a new job, and she basically just works with the Queen on supernatural matters. There's more ghosts in this. I'm so excited we finally got to meet some ghosts. There was one, what was her name? Oh goodness. The way they talk about the ghosts is they're called formerly and then their name from when they were human. Right, I think she was in the beginning of the book. Merroway. The first ghost we meet is called formerly Merroway, and she's like not a servant, but like she is at the estate that the Macans live at, so she kind of works with them. And there's been a couple other ghosts, but the like main issue in this book is that there's this thing going on where basically it's like an area that's affected, where in that area werewolves and vampires lose their supernaturalness as if a preternatural were touching them, but it's just in this area, and any ghosts in that area are completely exorcised, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with that. They think it's like a machine because it's an area that's been moving. On top of that, Connell, her husband, has left to go back to Scotland because his old pack is dealing with some issues with their current alpha being killed, and so he kind of feels responsible for them as he had been their alpha at some point. So he runs off to do that, but he doesn't know about changes regarding the situation with the weird machine thing. So Alexia is going to Scotland to inform her husband of things, along with her friend Ivy, who doesn't know her friend's preternatural abilities, but she's like so funny. I love her. And also one of her half-sisters is along for the ride, so that's really fun. Ivy's also in a predicament because she's engaged to a lord, not a very high-standing one, but a lord nonetheless, and she's getting up there in age in terms of marrying age in Victorian London, so she's probably like in her early 20s. So she can't really turn this offer down, but she's in love with one of the people who works like as an assistant, kind of, I guess, to Connell in the hopes that he can one day become a werewolf himself. So there's that whole plot line going on. There's this woman who's weird. She's French. She might be gay. Oh, I think our main character is bisexual based on some things that have happened, but don't know about that. But that's pretty cool if she is. This woman who runs a hat shop, but she also has this like secret past with Alexia's French maid who used to work for the vampires but now works for her. So there's like a lot of different plot threads, and I'm very curious as to how they're all going to come together. So I'm going to go move to the bedroom where I can turn on the AC and not melt in the heat and get more reading done tonight. So I don't think I'm going to update you again tonight, but I will see you at some point in the future with an update. Hello friends, it is just about 1 p.m. on Monday and I've got an update on Changeless. I have just surpassed page 300, so I've only got about 80 pages left. This looks like more than it is because there's little extras in the back. This isn't story. This is what I've got left. So I figured now would be a good time to update you all on what's been happening. So they're in Scotland. We are dealing with the pack of werewolves that Connell had abandoned 20 years earlier when he came to London and became alpha of this new pack over there. Well, new to him. It was a very well established pack already. But why is it that as soon as I start filming, it seems like everyone wants to drive on my street? I swear no one was coming by. I'm sorry if you can hear the cars. Anyway, we're up there. The whatever it is that's causing the vampires and werewolves to remain mortal has kind of taken over this area of Scotland. They are near Edinburgh? Maybe? No, Glasgow. They're outside of Glasgow is where they are. And this werewolf pack is very small. There's only 6 of them plus this lady that I'll talk to you about in a second. And the 6 of them have not been able to transform into werewolves for weeks now. And they don't know what's going on. Everyone else is also trying to figure out what's going on. But there's a lot of tension because of the fact that Connell had abandoned them and is now back. Most of the tension is because this lady, who is acting as alpha even though she's not a werewolf, is Connell's great-great-great-granddaughter. Because before he became a werewolf, he was also like just the head of this clan, because there's all the Scottish clans. In order to... What is going on? That's a gigantic truck going past. That's so rude. I'm trying to film. So before he was allowed to become a werewolf, he had to get married and have an heir because he was the head of his clan, and just in case he died. But also he wouldn't be able to have kids as a werewolf anyway, which is something I'll get to also in a minute. So he had a wife and a child before he was turned into a werewolf, and he never told Alexia, and he's like, yeah, well, you never asked. And she's like, I don't think that's something I should have asked about, because that's something you should have just told me, but okay. So there's some communication issues happening between the two of them. He apparently also might not have known her father, but would have known of him, and that's another thing where she's like, why didn't you tell me this? And he's like, I'm 200 years older than you. Do you expect me to give you like a play-by-play of everything that happened? And she's just like, no, but I feel like these are important things you should have brought up, and I'm backing her up on this one. So yeah. What is her name? I don't even know how to pronounce it. Let me find it so I can spell it for you. Oh, of course they're not going to show her name. This book has a lot of, like, I don't know, like, descriptors instead of saying it, so it'll just be like the lady said or the werewolf said or something like that instead of saying people's names all the time. She's also referred to as Lady Kingair a lot. Kingair is the name of the castle they live at. They gonna give me her first name so I can spell it for you? No. That's fine. It starts with an S and is very Scottish, and I know that Scottish pronunciation is not how English pronunciation would be, so I just have no idea how to pronounce her name. It's fine. There's the issue of the fact that I think Alexia might be pregnant. There was a line in book 1 when they got married where they were like, oh, werewolves are technically undead in this case, just like vampires are, because when they're turned, they like stop aging and stuff, so they're like lumped in that category. So like, oh, so he can't have kids. That's in this book why he's like, yeah, so before I turned into a werewolf, I had to have a kid because I can't have kids after I turn into a werewolf. But she's a preternatural. When she touches him, he's mortal. And obviously, she's touching when they're like having marital relations. And there's been several comments in this book about her gaining weight and having a sensitive stomach. I feel like these are breadcrumbs, and I don't know how I feel about it. I don't hate the pregnancy trope like most people do. I hate surprise pregnancies. This wouldn't be a surprise because like there's definitely hints coming along, and also it's like a married couple. So like, I don't know if I would hate if she was pregnant. It's still not my favorite thing to read. We'll see how that goes. There's also a lot of talk about Egypt in this. A lot of talk about India and a lot of talk about Egypt, but I think Egypt is the bigger piece here. This is a lot of British imperialism because it is 1870s England, and England was an empire at that point. I mean, they're still an empire, but like that was kind of the heyday of it all. And the start of this book, a lot of troops are coming back from India and Egypt, and they think that this machine or whatever it is that's causing the supernaturals to lose their supernatural abilities came from one of these campaigns. Like someone brought it back with them, and these werewolves took a lot of artifacts from Egypt, including mummies, so they're going to have an unwrapping and see what this mummy is like, which sounds so awful and disgusting and disrespectful to this because it's someone's remains. But I also have to think about the fact that this was a different time period, different society. They didn't see anything wrong with it at that point, which is awful, but I have to understand that that's why these things are happening in this book. So, yeah. A lot is going on. I'm going to finish this at some point today, and I will see you when I do. Okay, it's now 4 p.m., so it's been a few hours, but I finished reading Changeless. Oh my god, you guys, the ending. Okay, first of all, there were some things I didn't tell you, some ideas that I had of what was going to happen, because they would have involved way too much, like, talking about the plot, and I'm like, I'm not going to spoil every single detail of this book for this vlog. But the things that I thought were happening are happening. This person that I thought was going to, like, turn on the main character did, and this big thing that happened, I was correct. I was following the breadcrumbs of foreshadowing, so that's all well and good. But can we just talk about this last chapter? So, I had said that I thought this character was pregnant, and I was correct. And when we find this out, everyone's obviously confused because, you know, a werewolf isn't supposed to have, like, she isn't supposed to be able to have kids. But Alexia immediately is like, oh, it's because of my powers to unsupernatural this man. But, like, I understand Connell being like, how the fuck did this happen? But he genuinely was the worst. Like, it was the worst thing he could have possibly done. He starts screaming at her, accusing her of infidelity. He's, like, backing away, and she literally, in Alexia's, like, thoughts, she's like, she'd never been scared of him before, even though she'd seen his anger. She'd never been scared of him until that moment. And she's, like, genuinely terrified of him in this time. and then they get kicked out of this castle because, like, this, he may not be the alpha of this pack anymore, but, like, it's still his family and everything, and they're like, they are obviously taking his side on this, which, like, I understand. I do get that everyone thought this wasn't possible. Like, it never crossed their mind of something that could happen because it has never happened before. But, like, they don't know anything about preternaturals. They're so incredibly rare that it just, obviously, a preternatural has never had a child with a supernatural before. But, like, the way they're reacting is just angering me so much. It genuinely, I was gonna give this book a 9 out of 10 because it's just as good as the first book. It just didn't have that spark that the first book had. But I think I'm gonna knock this down a star just for how Connell reacted to this whole thing, because genuinely, it's infuriating me that this has happened. Literally, Alexia, her sister, and so the friend Ivy that was with them in Scotland, she ended up going off, running away and eloping with this other guy that was there from the wolf pack as, like, an escort to Scotland, like a chaperone, I guess. He's not actually a werewolf, he's someone who wanted to be a werewolf, so he was working with the pack in London in the hopes of one day becoming one. But the two of them have run off and eloped, so they're, like, off doing their own thing. But Alexia, her sister, and then the other woman that was there with them literally are running away so that they don't get attacked by these werewolves. And at the end, they're in this carriage going as fast as possible, and Felicity, Alexia's sister, is asking the other woman, like, what are you doing? Why you look so weird? And she says, I'm listening for howling and running wolves, as if they expect to be, like, followed and attacked for this. And I'm just like, genuinely, like, you can probably tell from the way I'm reacting, like, I'm so mad about this. I'm so mad. I definitely need a break from this for a moment, so I don't think I'm going to start the next book today. I'm going to spend the rest of today doing other stuff. I'll pick up book 3, which, let me reach over and grab it. Book 3 is Blameless, which I assume Connell's going to come to his freaking senses and realize that Alexia didn't do anything wrong, and that's his freaking kid that she's pregnant with. Oh my god, you guys, I'm just so mad. I'm sorry, I'm reading the back for a second. So she moves out of her husband's house and back with her family. Big scandal. Oh my god, yikes. Queen Victoria dismisses her from her position with the Shadow Council. Lord Akeldama leaves town. Alexi's attacked by homicidal mechanical ladybugs. And yeah, all the vampires in London want her dead. Lord Macon is just getting drunk all the time. Great. Oh, Alexi's going to Italy in this one, I guess. She's visiting the Templars. Only they know enough about the preternatural to explain her increasingly inconvenient condition, but they may be worse than vampires, and they're armed with pesto. I love the humorous, like, writing style of this book, but I guess this is meant to be Italy. Here, there's a giant gargoyle, but nothing else really screams Italy to me about this cover. Oh my god, I'm just so frustrated about that ending. I'm gonna go now. I'll see you guys eventually. On here for just a second. I am not even 50 pages into Blameless. I'm on page 48, and first of all, Connell has been completely miserable the entire time, which I love. He should be, because of how horribly he acted at the end of book 2. But I'm coming on here to talk about the fact that he's been drunk for 3 days straight from drinking formaldehyde. Is that possible? Is that something that can make you intoxicated? Why are there cars the second I turn on the camera? Whatever. That's just bizarre, and I felt the need to bring that up because... what? Okay, yeah, that's it. I'm gonna keep reading. I'll come back later. This is an absolutely awful angle to be filming from. It is 6:30 p.m. still on Tuesday, and I'm now 282 pages into this book, and I stopped because I have to update you on what's going on. I'm like literally in the middle of a chapter. I haven't been updating you guys because honestly, not much of interest has been happening. I feel like, it has been interesting, but something about it just isn't, like, the tension's not there like it's been in the past couple of books in the series. But anyway, Alexia's off in Italy dealing with the Templars, and Connell finally came to his senses and just like, I fucked up. So he put this whole thing out in the newspaper saying, hey, my wife is pregnant, but it's my baby, it's a modern miracle. And so that's fine. He's going off to find her now. But I'm sorry, I'm just frazzled after what just happened. So Lord Akeldama, the reason why he ran off is because one of his drones, his, like, assistants who are trying to become vampires, was kidnapped by another vampire. Not only was it just one of his drones, it was Biffy, his favorite drone, whom I love. I love Biffy so much. He was kidnapped, and Connell and Professor Lyle were off to rescue him. He was being kept in this, like, bubble under the Thames River, and there was, like, a scuffle with the other vampire, like, coming back, and Connell shot him, but not before the vampire shot a silver bullet, but missed the 2 werewolves and got Biffy in the stomach, and then he was, like, dying, and Lyle is like, you have to turn him into a werewolf, or he'll die, and I feel like Akeldama would prefer to have him in some form of living, even if it is as a werewolf. So now Biffy's a werewolf, and, like, this is just all so much. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm probably gonna finish this today. But yeah, I have like 100 pages left, so I will see you when I'm done with this book. Hello friends, it's me again. It is 7:45, still the same day, and I finished Blameless. This is all the extra stuff that doesn't count as the actual book. I should actually probably look at it. It might be interesting things. It's like a mock interview with the characters. That's interesting. Huh. I will look at those later. Anyway, I've read this whole thing today, minus the first chapter I did read before bed last night because my boyfriend said he was coming to bed, so I got ready for bed, and then he was still a little bit later, so I did read the first chapter last night. But other than that, I read the whole thing today because I had oodles of time, and, like, it was good. I still really enjoyed it. There was just something about the, like, tense scenes that weren't as tense as they should have been. Like, I was reading it and I felt like I should have been more invested, and that really showed when we got to the scene with Biffy that I already updated you on, because that was a moment when I really was, like, really in the scene, and it showed how the earlier stuff was, like, I don't know, something about it was just missing, I feel. But still good book. I think Alexia forgave her husband a little bit too easily. I mean, he did do some groveling. He did kind of make up for the way he acted, but, like, I don't know. I feel like it was just a little bit quick to forgive. And I don't know, man. That's, like, the only blemish on this series so far, and I'm hoping it's, like, the only thing that I really don't like about this series, but well, we shall see. We're now past the halfway mark because this is book 3 out of 5. I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. I don't know if I said that yet, but I'm putting it on the same level as the last book. It would be slightly below if it weren't for the last 6 pages of that book, but it's fine. Now that I finished this one, I get to pick up Heartless, which is purple. Fun. Let's read the back of this one. Lady Alexia McCann, Soulless, is at it again, only this time the trouble is not her fault. Good for her, I guess. There's a mad ghost threatening the queen, delving into her husband's past. One of her sisters joins the suffragette movement. Interesting. Zombie porcupines? Oh, and this is when she's 8 months pregnant, so there's another little time skip. Is it the vampires again, or is there a traitor lurking about in wolf's clothing? And what exactly has taken up residence in Lord Aquildama's second-best closet? So I'm very intrigued. This book is 401 pages, so it is longer by about 20 to 25 pages than all the rest have been, but that's not a lot. Still a little bit longer. Oh, there's a prologue. I'm intrigued. I will pick this up later on tonight. For now, though, I have to feed my cats and also feed myself, so I will see you at some point in the future. Hello, friends. It is just before noon on Wednesday the 31st, and I've got an update on Heartless. I'm about 150 pages in, and I was gonna wait until I was 200 pages in, because that would be halfway, but some things are happening that I feel like I want to update you guys on. So there's a lot of little moving pieces going on, and like things from past books coming up. So like in book 2, when they go to Scotland, we learn about why Connell had left his pack 20 years earlier, and like that reason is like coming back into a current plot, and like different things from the other books too. So like very intrigued to see how it all comes together. Ivy is going back to Scotland, so that's fun. I'm happy for her. I hope we get to see her doing stuff over there with the werewolves. She's going over there because our main character is 8 months pregnant, so there's no way she's traveling that far. We've got so many interesting things happening, like several characters just, I don't know how to say this politely, but like being exposed as bisexual. So something's happening with the wolf pack. Connell had to leave, and Professor Lyle, his second in command, is like, I'm gonna find someone to help you get dressed, Alexia. And he's like a little bit weird about it, and then he grabs one of Lord Aquildama's drones to help, because I don't know if I mentioned this, they're living with Lord Aquildama now because he's going to adopt their baby so that the vampires stop trying to kill Alexia. It's a whole thing. But the drone, Boots is what he's named, he's like, maybe I shouldn't be the one to help you, and Lord Aquildama himself comes over to help, and she's like, I don't understand why these guys are so weird about helping me get dressed. And he's like, well, it's because they're into women. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize one of your drones would be into women. And he's like, well, he is into both men and women, just like Professor Lyle. And she's like, Professor Lyle is into both men and women? And also our main character, Alexia, is bisexual herself. That's something she's kind of been like figuring out over the past couple of books, ever since she met LeFou, who is the lesbian inventor lady. Genevieve is her first name. So a lot more bisexual rep in this series than I expected, but yeah, a lot of different threads are coming together, and I'm excited to keep going and see how they form this whole big picture. So I am going to keep reading and come back to you later. Hello, friends. It is 6 p.m. It's 5:50, but it's basically 6 p.m. And I've been reading in bed, which is why you get this weird lighting situation. There's a giant tree in front of my house, and it's blowing in the wind and affecting the light, but it's fine. I'm here to give you my update on Heartless, because I've just finished reading it. This book, absolutely insane. There's so much that happens, and if I were to try and recap it all, we'd be here for the next hour. Of course, a train is going by. Great, I love that. Yeah, there's so much that goes on that I'm just gonna not address most of it, but one thing I will say is that Alexia has her baby right at the end, and her name is Prudence, which I know is the name of a character, the main character in a different series by this author, so now I know who Prudence is, and she is a soul stealer. So she takes the form of whoever she's touching. So, like, Alexia, when she touches, God, this lighting's horrible. I just looked up. When Alexia touches a supernatural being, they turn human. When Prudence touches a supernatural being, she becomes what they are. So if she's touching a werewolf, she is a werewolf. If she's touching a vampire, she is a vampire. That's crazy. I cannot wait to see how that goes. Obviously, she's going to be a baby in the next book, but then she gets her own series that I would love to read. And then that is called, let's go back to the back of the book where it's got all of her books. The Custard Protocol is what that series is called. And then there's also the Finishing School series, which is like, ooh, let me block the light, which is a prequel, and it's about Connell's great-great-great-granddaughter, who becomes the alpha of the Scottish pack in the second book. They're all blending out because I've binged them. Yeah, so that's like a prequel set 20-ish years before the Parasol Protectorate. I loved this book. I thought this was so good. I can't believe I only have one more left, and then eventually I'll read this other series set in this world. I genuinely am so obsessed with everything. It's so good. We really get the steampunk in this one. I feel like in the first three, there's like steampunk elements, but in this one we see that come in full force in the form of an octopus robot, which is appropriately named the Octomaton, like an octopus automaton. I love that. That's hilarious. Other things you need to know going into book 5 is that the Westminster vampires now live in Wolsey Castle, which is where the Wolsey werewolves lived, and they now live in London. So there's a little switcheroo. Things are just all out of sorts now, and I'm so excited to read the last book. If it seems like I've been kind of racing through these, I promise I'm not like rushing trying to finish them quickly. I mean, I would love to finish this before the weekend because I have so many plans this weekend and will not be reading over those days, so I'd like to get done before then. But also, I just have nothing else to do. I'm between writing projects at the moment, so I kind of just have several hours a day to spend reading. So I'm having a great time doing it. I'm not mad that I'm spending all this time reading. Obviously, I'm loving it. So that is Heartless, though. That was book 4, and now I get to start book 5, the last one. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Okay, one last update for today, I promise. I'm 7 pages in to Timeless, and I'd like to give an update on Prudence's powers, because I feel like I didn't fully understand them at the end of the last book, but now... Oh my god, there's a cat in here and I didn't realize. Hello, Chloe. Come on. Get on the bed. Yeah, so I understand now better what Prudence can do. Oh, hello. Ow! She scratched my leg jumping over me. Whatever. Cats, man. So, there's been a 2-year time skip, by the way. So, Prudence is now 2 years old, and she not only... When she touches, I'm sorry, Chloe is behind me making weird sounds. When she touches a vampire, she becomes a vampire. But, first of all, she takes the, you can see Chloe's tail, she takes the other person's thing. So, like, if she touches Lord Akeldama, she becomes a vampire, and he becomes immortal. Mortal, not immortal. So if she touches a werewolf, she becomes a werewolf, and the other person becomes mortal. It doesn't only happen when she's touching them. It happens... Like, that's the thing that causes the switch, but then even when they stop touching, she still retains this supernatural ability and the other person doesn't have it until her mother reverses the effect. So, that's interesting. Yeah, I just figured I would clear up that little, detail. Now, I'm probably not going to read too much tonight because I've got a headache, but I wanted to read a chapter, so... I'm gonna do that, and then head to bed, and then pick this up and read probably a good chunk of it tomorrow, so see ya! Okay, one absolute final update for tonight, because I'm now 36 pages in, and we've gotten further clarification on these meta-natural powers, as they are called, because they're supernatural, there's preternatural, Prudence is meta-natural. So, her powers don't just last indefinitely. She can only do this at night, so in daytime doesn't do anything when she touches supernatural people. It reverts when her mom touches her, and not the other person, like she has to touch Prudence. It reverts when the sun rises, or we've just learned that there's like a distance thing, so if she gets far enough away from the person whose supernatural abilities she's taken, then it reverts back as well. So, we're learning things. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hello friends, it is about 3:45 p.m. on August 1st, and I am officially past the halfway mark in Timeless, so we're in the home stretch here, just under 200 pages left to go, so I'm probably going to finish it today, but also if I don't, no big deal. Things are happening. We have just arrived in Egypt because the queen of the Alexandria vampire hive heard of Alexia and her strange child and was just like, you guys have to come see me. And she's like potentially the oldest immortal in existence. She's said to be over 3,000 years old. So if she wants you to do something, you do it. So Alexia and Prudence obviously had to go, so along with them is Connell and Ivy and her husband, and they had twins, so those babies are along with them. And this whole troupe of actors, it's a whole thing. Back at the home base in London, things are happening. There was a death from the Scottish wolf pack, and also some things were made clear to people who then got angry about those things. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to give details, but some pack dynamics are going to be changing. And Felicity is to blame because she's honestly a terrible person and is just stirring up a bunch of drama for no reason other than she wants her sister to suffer. There's been some romance brewing between Biffy and Lyle, whose first name is Randolph, by the way. Lyle is his last name, but like no one calls him that. Well, Lord Akeldama calls him Dolly, which I think is really funny. But, yeah, I don't know how I feel about this romance. I think it's cute, but also a little bit out of the blue. I don't know. I feel like I have to see how it plays out. But of course, it's only playing out now, like starting up when things are to be changing, so it's very bittersweet. But I'm curious as to see where it goes between the two of them. Other than that, what else is there? Oh, we learned that Alexia's powers don't work when she's submerged in salt water at the very least, because she fell off the edge of the boat and then Connell jumped in after her and held her and didn't revert to human form. So that's interesting. There's a lot of things people are learning, but they're in Egypt now and they're gonna uncover some secrets, I guess, and also meet this vampire queen. I'm very excited to see what she is like, but I am going to keep reading, and the next time I come to talk to you should be when I finish this thing, so I will see you then. Okay, I only have 5 minutes left until this sprint ends, so I can't chat for long, but I've just finished Timeless. It is 7:41 p.m. and I finished it. I don't know what I expected out of it, but I don't think it was quite what I got. It felt maybe a little bit underwhelming. Not like a bad book by any means. I still really enjoyed it. But the whole overarching plot that we've been building up since book 1 did come to an end. It just fizzled out a little bit. And like there's still so many things that I want to know about that it would have made sense to clear up in this book. So I don't know. I guess I should probably read the other books that this author's written, because there's the prequel series, which is called the Finishing School series, and that follows Connell's great-great-great-granddaughter when she was in her late teens, I think, about 20 to 25 years before this series. And then there's the Custard Protocol series, which follows Prudence, who is the daughter of the main character of this series. So that'll be fun. I guess I'll look out for those books when I go thrifting in the future. I haven't gone to thrifting in a while. I really need to go soon. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I think this is an 8. My favorite book is the first one still, 10 out of 10, perfect, couldn't ask for anything more. And then I would say book 4, then I would put this book and book 2 on the same wavelength, and then book 3 is probably my least favorite, but still, I loved book 3. I had a great time. But yeah, that was the Parasol Protectorate series. I think what I'm gonna do is on my bookcase, I currently have a shelf and a half dedicated to portal fiction, portal fantasy, and then the other half a shelf left over from that is my dragon books. I think I'm going to try and condense my portal fantasy onto one shelf, and then on the shelf with the dragon books, I will put my historical fantasy / historical paranormal, because I have this series and 3 other books, I think, that I've read that could go on there. One of which is currently just with my general fantasy shelf, and the other 2 are on my paranormal shelf, because one deals with zombies and one deals with ghosts. But I can put all that together. And then I also have 2 more historical fantasy books on my TBR shelf that I'm hoping to get to soon. One is The Diviners by Libba Bray, which takes place in 1920s, I believe, and our main character has some sort of clairvoyance to her, I'm not entirely sure. And then the other one I have is A Declaration on the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Perry, I think, and that takes place at some point in history. I don't really know. I got it for $1. But yes, I'm going to rearrange those books, and then I'll show you what the shelves look like, and then I'll come back and close out this vlog. That sounds like a good plan, so I'm gonna get on that. So here we have the condensed Portal Fantasy, and then Peter Pan and Chronicles of Narnia had to get demoted just to Classic Fantasy, so that's down there. But then over here, we have my new historical fantasy / historical paranormal shelf, and there's a little bit of room to grow because I have a book facing out, so that's really fun. And with that, we've come to the end of this vlog. I have no idea how long this is going to be, so good luck to editing me, but that's not my problem right now. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.